If you are here listening or watching this right now, congratulations. You are in an incredible place, and that is the atmosphere of purple. This is the SeePurple podcast. The Purple Pod, as the cool kids call it. Haven't said that in a while. This is number 15. My name is Beecher. Welcome back. Great to be here. Great to have you. If you're new, welcome. If you're not new, welcome. I love you. I love you all. If you're just listening on like Spotify or Apple Podcasts, disregard what I'm about to say, but if you're watching me on YouTube, which some people like to do, please consider subscribing and liking this video, mostly because I just made this cool animation, wherever that's going to be, and I felt really proud about it, and I hope that you do that now. 60% of people that watch my videos aren't subscribed, so please consider that. Thank you. Welcome to be here. Welcome for being here. It's going to be a great podcast. I'm excited. I hope you are. And let's just get into it. If you haven't already, go check out my other last two videos I made. One was just like a vlog to kind of see who I am, what I do, and when we went to New Orleans, what that was about, the misfortunes, the great things that happened. And then another video was me polling people on the street, asking them who they're voting for, and then asking them to compliment the other person that they aren't voting for. So if they voted for Trump, to compliment Biden, vice versa. And let me tell you, the results were shocking. Clickbait. But honestly, it actually was. I was surprised that most people couldn't compliment the other one. Super interesting, so go check those out. We got an exciting week. A lot of stuff happening right now. A lot. We're going to unpack it right now. First of all, presidential debates on Thursday. This will be posted on Wednesday if I post it on time, which I hope to do. It's going to be the last debate, I believe, between President Trump and Vice President Biden. It's going to be 9 Eastern, Thursday on Fox News. And some new things happening. For one, everyone has to be wearing a mask in the audience. That's a rule now that they made. So anyone that's not is going to get kicked out. And second, the way the format goes, they ask a position, a question. They both have some time to answer that. And then they debate after they both give their answers. And so while President Trump gives his 90-second answer and Senator Biden, Vice President Biden gives his 90-second answer, the other one's mic will be muted so that they cannot interrupt each other. Very childish that we have to put that rule into place, but here we are. And then another huge thing is, I feel like I'm doing this so much. I'm moving my hands like this, sorry. Another huge thing is the Supreme Court is voting on Monday. This is going to be posted on Wednesday, so next Monday, on Amy Coney Barrett, and if she's going to be in the Supreme Court or not, which is pretty crazy. It's moved quick. She got interviewed. The Judiciary Committee is supposed to sign her, approve of her on Friday, which means they can be voted on Monday. Mitch McConnell says that's the goal. So we're going to know shortly whether she's in the Supreme Court or not. Expect some drama from the Democrats. Expect some drama from the Republicans, but that is where we are. That's all I got for kind of the intro, some housekeeping stuff. So let's just get into it. Intro music, get us going. Audio Jungle. President Trump's tweets, the best segment of the podcast, in my opinion. It's my finest work every time. I comment on the president's tweets, and we have a grand old time. Also, I forgot to mention in the intro, but stupid Beecher here, that's me, I'm stupid, wore the same exact color t-shirt of my background for the second week straight. They're different t-shirts, people. The other one's like a colored shirt. This one's just a normal tan t-shirt that matches in perfectly. And I don't know, I was wearing a hoodie today, so I was like, no, I'll be fine. And then it's so hot in here with this light and stuff that I was like, all right, I'm going to take it off. And then realized, and now I'm too deep, guys, I'm too deep. So I look like a fool again. That's really every week I look like a fool. But whatever, let's look at someone that sometimes is a bigger fool than me, and that is President Trump sometimes with his tweets. And we got some bangers for you guys today, some great ones. Let me just tell you. Of course, let's start off with him calling out Joe Biden. And then we got like a plethora of like this experience that he had. And we're going to share that experience together. But let's start off. Corrupt politician Joe Biden makes crooked Hillary look like an amateur. We love to see it. The name calling is back. You know what we do. He didn't really name call him. It wasn't like his nickname Sleepy Joe. It was corrupt politician Joe Biden makes crooked Hillary look like an amateur. I don't know if I disagree. I don't know if I agree with that. Personally, it's a strong strategy, right? equate him to Hillary Clinton, who most people knew as a career politician that did some shady stuff. That's all I'll say. I feel like Joe Biden is very much a career politician, and most politicians are shady. I don't feel like he's as corrupt as crooked Hillary. Let me know if I'm wrong. That's my opinion. That's why you're listening, is because my opinion's here. But regardless, it's a strong tactic. It got 65,000 retweets. You know how he does. And just a little, poking the bear. That's what he does. And so especially with the debate coming up, he's going to try to make him look as corrupt as ever with all this Hunter Biden stuff, which I've mentioned in the past. He's going to make him look as corrupt as ever. So strong. I would say strong. All right, let's go next. Okay, now a couple of my favorite things I've talked about. I love when President Trump tweets about sports. I don't know why. I think it's just interesting that he comments on it pretty often, actually, for like a president. And this is like, and then so we love when he name calls, and we love when he comments on sports, or at least I do. And this is a mix of both in like a series of 4 tweets. So I'm gonna kind of explain it and drop the knowledge on you. So him and Fauci, who's like the leading disease expert in the United States, he was on the committee for coronavirus, beef a lot. Mostly President Trump beefs with Fauci. He thinks Fauci's too safe. President Trump likes to live wild or whatever. And they beef, right? They don't like each other, I would say. So President Trump is going off right here. So he says, Dr. Tony Fauci says we don't allow him to do television. And yet I saw him last night on 60 Minutes. And he seems to get more airtime than anybody since the late, great Bob Hope. I can't comment on that. I don't know who that is, but it seems like he was probably on the air a lot, Bob Hope. All I ask of Tony is that he make better decisions. He said, quote, no masks and let China in. Also, bad arm. And then if you don't know what that bad arm means, we're going to get to that. Reply to that tweet, he says, P.S. Tony should stop wearing the Washington Nationals mask, which is a baseball team, professional baseball team, for 2 reasons. Number 1, it is not up to the high standards that he should be exposing. I don't know what that means. Number 2, that was me saying I don't know what that means, not the tweet. Number 2, it keeps reminding me that Tony threw out perhaps the worst first pitch in the history of baseball. Now, if you are with me back in the day, I did comment on this first pitch. It was awful. Not good at all. 50 cents is rivals it for worst I've ever seen, probably. Okay, so because this is just how he is, we just get into President Trump's character, calling out Fauci, which is just what he does. Strong works, right? Second, also comments on his terrible pitch, right? Now, if you're thinking the next thing that would make this the trifecta of President Trump and calling out and how he works with his former employees or current employees that he doesn't like, is he's going to try to compare himself to them. And that is exactly what happened. So let's go. We go next. Someone then tweeted, and President Trump retweeted it, right? Her name's Melissa Tate. She says, Fauci's pitch is a metaphor for how wrong he has been. And a bigger metaphor is how loudly the sycophant left cheered this terrible pitch. SMH, which just means shake my head, right? And it's a gif of the pitch, and it is terrible. So she's saying his pitch was a metaphor of how he's handled this. President Trump retweets that, right? More shade at Fauci as an athlete, which he's not. He's a doctor. And then someone replied to one of President Trump's tweet about Fauci with the video of President Trump throwing out the first pitch, which was a good pitch, great pitch. And he said, President Trump quotes and says, a perfect strike for the American people. Right? So, oh my God. It's the best. It's the best series of tweets I might have ever seen. Just like exactly embodies who President Trump is, right? He's a guy that likes competition, likes being the best. He only likes people that agree with him, right? We've kind of seen that. Anyone that's against him, he turns his enemy. He's turning Dr. Fauci his enemy. Let's humiliate him with tweets, but let's make fun of his arm and his athletics. And then let's show that I am better in fact, and here's proof. Incredible. When I discovered this in my research, I was like, this is the best. It's all of my favorite things that President Trump could do. Him stroking the ego, him mentioning sports, and him calling out people. And that's just the president that we got, and we know that's who he is. No shade on him. That's just who he is. And man, it was incredible. So I'm actually even I keep mentioning this, but feel like President Trump is worried about the wrong people. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's got an election against Joe Biden in 2 weeks. I don't know why he's not focused on him. Regardless, though, he's going to be focused on anyone that's really anti-President Trump, right? Or fake news. And so that's what's happening, and President Trump is on the attack, and Dr. Fauci's on the list, as well as Joe Biden, of course. So those are President Trump's tweets of the week. I hope you enjoyed those. Let me know if you like those sports ones. I always do. I'll throw them in there. And yeah, let's get on to the main story. For the main story, I was kind of struggling. I didn't know exactly what I want to talk about. There was nothing to me that was huge in the news that we hadn't already kind of knew about, right? We know about the debates. We know about the Supreme Court, Amy Coney Barrett. There was not enough that I really felt like I needed to update you guys on, right? Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I missed something huge. But really what I want to talk about, and it's kind of a teaching moment, is I want to talk about the Electoral College. Some of you guys may know. Some of you guys may have an idea. Some of you guys may have no idea, and that's okay. But Electoral College is always brought up every 4 years as a controversy, and a lot of people view it as a controversial topic, because of what it is and how it's built and how it affects you as a voter, right? So the election's coming up 2 weeks. Most of the voter registrations are probably passed. That's my bad for not updating you. If you are in Utah, I think you still have a couple of days. But it comes up every week, and you might have an opinion on it. You may not. Regardless if you do, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what it is, why it's controversial, why it's good, why it's bad, what it actually is, okay? So, if you don't know, what I'll just talk about, an overview is the Electoral College is another way to have better representation for the American people when electing a president, right? So, for example, California has 20x the amount of people than like Montana, right? Or Wyoming. I don't know. I don't even know if 20x is the right word. A lot more people, probably way more than 20x, actually. A lot more people than small states, right? And so when those guys at the beginning of the nation, the founding fathers, those homies were like, yo, right, what if like Delaware has twice the many people as New York? And so if a candidate is from Delaware, he's obviously going to win Delaware, and then it's like unfair for New York, right? Or whatever. That's kind of what they were talking about. And they said, let's create a better way to represent states equally. And so that's what we're going to talk about is Electoral College. So this is what they came up with. They found it as a compromise. Very purple, some would say. I would say. But I'll talk about how we can maybe make it better. So basically, I'm gonna kind of read to you what people have defined as. But each state gets as many electors as it has members of Congress, and members of Congress. So it's kind of interesting. Members of Congress are done by population, right? So California has way more representatives in the House than Wyoming. In the Senate, California has 2 votes, Wyoming has 2 votes, right? So you add up how many representatives there are on the House for your state, and everyone has 2 senators in the Senate. You add those numbers up, and that's how many electors your state gets. I wish I had the exact numbers for you so then I could give better examples, but here we go. I've lived in California, I've lived in Wyoming, so I'm going to keep talking about those 2 probably. So, and then also Washington, D.C., as its own little province that it is. It's not a state yet, but it's close, right? It gets 3 electors. And so there are currently 535 electors in all, because there's 435 members of the House, 100 members of the Senate, plus the 3 in Washington, D.C., okay? Each state's political parties choose their own slate of potential electors. So that could be really anyone, but the Constitution says an elector in that state cannot be someone that is currently holding an office in the United States government, if that makes sense. So as far as I understood that correctly, if you're a senator from Utah, you cannot be an elector for Utah. And so I won't get into how those people are chosen as electors, but they are, and they're done by the states. And they're normally people involved in politics, not just random people. Okay, so after you cast your ballot for president, your vote goes to a statewide tally. If you vote in Utah, you're going to go into Utah's tally. And then in 48 states, in Washington, D.C., the winner gets all the electoral votes. So if President Trump wins 51% of Utah's votes for president, just that majority, he's going to get all 11, I believe, electoral votes that Utah has. If that makes sense. Okay? Now, some say that that's unfair as well, and we'll talk about that more. 2 states, Maine and Nebraska, don't know why it's them, but I think they're pretty smart, in my opinion. They do a proportional system. So say President Trump gets 51% in Nebraska, he'll only get 51% of the electors, right? So say Nebraska has 10, he'll get probably 5, and Joe Biden will get 5. If the other percentage, right? If Joe Biden got the 49%, they'd probably split it 5 and 5. And so your vote, so what Nebraska's vote is directly impacted, right, for the Electoral College. Very interesting. We'll get more to that later. I'll talk about how I think this is kind of interesting and neat. So 538 electors. A candidate needs at least 270 electors to win the majority and then to win the presidential election. So no candidates going for 538. They are shooting for the number 270. Most states have a reputation of how they vote, right? So if you look at California, I'll talk about it again. They're always going to vote liberal, and for a Democrat, they're always going to be blue. You can always count on them, and they're a huge state. New York, huge state, always going to vote blue. And that's kind of how the coastal cities are, is that they're always going to vote blue. Now, if you look at kind of the middle of the United States, they're normally going to vote red. That's just kind of how it's laid out. Coast with the bigger populations vote blue on both sides, and they vote blue. Red, like Wyoming, for example, is always going to vote red. If you've ever been to Wyoming, it's very rural, it's very work hard, it's very cowboy, and that's just kind of the stereotypes of a red state. Now, there are things called swing states, and those are states that they can flip-flop either Democrat or Republican every single election. Colorado sometimes is a flip state, like Ohio, Michigan, those are kind of Nevada, those are kind of known as flip states. Arizona, which is kind of where I grew up a little bit, they said is going to be a flip state this year, which is normally interesting because Arizona is predominantly always red. So very, very interesting. So the battle is for 270, and really the battle is for the flip states, right? Because Joe Biden knows California's going to vote for him. He knows Oregon's going to vote for him. He knows Washington's going to vote for him. He doesn't know if Arizona's going to vote for him, right? That could go either way. That's kind of the interesting part of the Electoral College. Okay, so in most cases, the projected winner is announced on election night. Normally, they project out, okay, California has all these votes. They're going to definitely vote for Joe Biden. Let's count the electoral votes towards Joe Biden. But actually, the electors actually meet in mid-December to actually vote. And the actual vote actually happens in mid-December, which I think is very interesting as well. So now this is also a kicker. While the Constitution doesn't require electors to follow their state's popular vote, so say you are in California but you actually want President Trump, even though you know California's votes are going to be blue, you technically by the Constitution don't have to vote blue. You could vote red if you really wanted. And so like California's like 55 votes, maybe one goes red. But many states have made laws that electors have to follow the state's votes, right? And then, though it's rare, some electors, though, have challenged those laws. But then in July, actually, of 2020, the Supreme Court ruled that state laws are constitutional. So it doesn't matter if you try to fight it. If you're an elector, you have to vote with what your state's voted for. So if you are a California elector and California is voting blue, you have to do that exact thing. Now, is it good? Is the Electoral College good? Is it work? Does it work? Let's talk about that. So, interestingly enough, to my knowledge, twice the popular vote has gotten a different result than the Electoral College. Now, that normally is a good indication that the Electoral College does work, that it does have the right candidate for the job. It does elect the right candidate. But twice, in my at least recent memory, and I believe in history, the popular vote has outweighed it. And that was with Al Gore against George W. Bush. And then Hillary Clinton last election had a bigger popular vote than the Electoral College. Now President Trump, because he can't handle to lose in any aspect, has refuted that statement. But from every source that I found, because of, they say California, Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, Donald Trump won the Electoral College, which is very interesting, very decisive. Nothing you can do because Electoral College is what declares the winner. So whether you like it or you hate it, it's in the Constitution, the Electoral College. This is how America does their elections. Now, is there a better solution? I think so, personally, and I think it's what Maine and Nebraska do. Because say you're a voter like me, and say I'm in California, and I'm a conservative, why would I go vote? Why would I feel the need to go vote for President Trump when I know that all 55 of California's electoral votes are going to go to Joe Biden, right? That's a guarantee. I don't think it'll ever will not happen now. California's votes are going to go to the blue, right? So now if I'm a conservative in California, why would I need to go vote? It's like, well, my vote doesn't matter anyway because all 55 are going to go to the blue anyway, so what's the point? And so because you have low voter turnout, even lower than just the interest of voting isn't there for some people. So when you have a place like Nebraska or Maine, right, you know that your vote's going to go get counted because it's proportional, right? So say in California, 20% do vote for red or vote for President Trump, then you know 20% of those electoral votes are going to go to President Trump, and you feel like your vote has counted. Now, I don't know how viable it is, but if 2 states have done it, there's a precedence there, and I think more states can, and I think that reform does need to happen. I think people are tired of Electoral College. They feel like their vote doesn't matter. And it's funny because like every election, like for example, like say this happens, and this is just how politics is. Hillary Clinton won the popular vote. President Trump won the Electoral College. Say this election, President Trump wins the popular vote and Joe Biden wins the Electoral College, and the Democrats are going to be very pro-Electoral College, even though maybe last election with Hillary, they weren't, right? People are going to flip-flop. But this way, you go vote, you know your vote's going to count. And I think that's the most important thing about American politics. And you don't want to suppress anyone from voting because they feel like it's not valued or it doesn't count. That's my opinion. Let me know if you have an opinion. Let me know if you're pro, against, meet in the middle. SeePurple on that. I think it's pretty sweet. But the important thing is, and even though our Electoral College system is set up like this, unless you're in Maine or Nebraska, still go vote. I'd still believe that it does count, right? And mostly because you vote for these people in these positions in these states as well when you go vote, right? That's the most important thing, right? Your local electors, your senators, your representatives. When you go vote, you have to vote for those people too, right? And then you vote on laws that affect your local area, right? That's really why you vote. People only go vote for some reason when it's for president. These local stuff, that's the most important thing. So please go vote. I'm on a soapbox about that because I think it's important. And especially like young people who mostly are listening to this, go vote. Your impact will be there, and it feels good to exercise a right in a country with the freedom that you have to go do that. Anyway, that's the main story. I hope that helped. Electoral College, is it good? Is it bad? A little bit of both. There's a better way. Let's do it, America. But let's get on to the purple vibes. For the purple vibes, the segment where we try to bring it all together, have a good end of the podcast, feel good about the direction American politics is going, even though it's not going in that direction. We bring it all together. Now, if you follow our Instagram, great. If you don't, follow us at SeePurple, because I post polls and I want to get your guys' feedback, and I post kind of a couple news stuff. I did a poll. There's a post, and it was a Biden supporter and a Trump supporter shaking hands, and the caption was on the photo, "This is how 90% of Americans actually are." I put a poll right under it and said, "Do you believe this is true? I think this is actually accurate?" And the majority said no. I believe it was 56 to 44%. 56 in favor that they disagreed that Americans fight more than that, more than 90%. Like, so 90% is not all peaceful. We are more attacking and more unfavorable towards the other party, as that picture made it seem. It's still pretty close, pretty even, right? But I thought it was very interesting. Now, I personally did disagree. I did not think that 90% of Americans are like that. I do believe that the way politics forces us to believe the way we believe and be very strong for an opinion just because that's the way everyone has to be now does make us feisty and judge and unfollow people, right? But I think that we can achieve that. And I don't think we're going to achieve it by red and blue becoming better people or becoming more civilized, because I'll be frank, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. And the way that elections are and like just the presence of the internet, I don't think that's going to happen. Now, I do think it could be achieved if those aren't the only two options. If we're not forced into a red or a blue, if we're not forced into a lesser of evils to vote for president of the United States, if we aren't just focused on two-party system. Now, on another episode, we can talk about how we're going to dismantle the two-party system together, because we are. But I do believe that we can achieve greater peace and equality between politics, and it's going to be feisty no matter what. But I believe more opinions, more thoughts, more people that are willing to challenge the status quo of not being red, not being blue, but just like progressive and forward. And people like Andrew Yang, who I talk about all the time, he's a Democrat, but if you look at his policies, is like so incredibly purple. Like, this doesn't work on the blue side, this doesn't work on the red side, let's do it this way, right? Now, obviously, he's not all purple. He did run as a Democrat, but like a forward-thinking guy that's only thinking ahead and like how we can improve this, right? Anyway, so that poll was very interesting. If you voted no and disagree, let's do something to change that. If you voted to agree, we can still do something to change this. Being better, seeing more purple. Second, I'm about to play for you about a 30-second ad about the two men that are running for governor in Utah. His name's Peterson and Spencer Cox. I don't know. I think it's Gavin Peterson, Spencer Cox. Gavin's a Democrat, Spencer Cox is a Republican. Both running for governor of Utah, and they put out this ad together. So I'm just going to play the audio for you.
I'm Chris Peterson.
And I'm Spencer Cox.
We are currently in the final days of campaigning against each other to be your next governor.
But today we've come together with a message more important than our differences.
That we will fully support the results of the presidential election.
So Utah can be an example to the nation.
Whether you vote by mail or in person, your vote determines the outcome.
And then we commit to a peaceful transfer of power.
It is the very foundation of our country.
And we ask that you stand with us.
Super interesting, right? Two politicians that believe completely different, that made an ad to help unify the state of Utah. I thought it was very interesting. Obviously, no one's going to like kill each other. I mean, I hope no one's killing each other over what like Biden or Trump, but like no one's going to like get harassed or beat someone up because of a governor race, I think, like, and especially because they're both not very radical on either side. They're both just like a Republican and a Democrat. But they didn't do it for them, right? They did it for this upcoming election, right? Like, hey, we're going to show unity during this time, so you can show unity when you go vote and as you just go into your political life. I thought it was incredible, right? It's seeing purple. It's exactly what we need. And I'm glad that I'm in a state that promotes this. Now, Utah can be criticized all they want for a lot of things that they do politically. That's okay, but this is a good step forward, right? And I do believe that Utah is a state that can make something like this. We're not a swing state, but we are aware enough, and I feel like nice enough people in this state to be like, yeah, you know, you're right. This is getting too far. Or yeah, actually, let's just like be good citizens of the state of Utah. So, incredible stuff. People are trying to see purple. It's not just me and like the 50 people that listen to this podcast. By the way, share this podcast with other people so we can up that number to 51. There are other people that are doing this, and people are seeing the vision. Now we're still ahead of our time. I mentioned this last time. We're on an exponential curve. I hope that showed up. Now we're like right here. In like a couple years, we're going to be, right? Hopefully that made sense. Maybe not. If you're listening, definitely didn't. Anyway, people want to see purple. They need a way to find out how. They need places to do it at. They need to feel safe to do it. Hopefully that is this place. I want you guys all have a great week. I want you guys all to stay blessed and see purple. Peace.